Well, good morning and welcome to Rodeo Houston Live. I'm David Brady, Chief Entertainment and Customer Engagement Officer at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, and taking care of our weekly chat here on Facebook Live and YouTube. So thanks for tuning in. I'll be joined this morning by our new president of Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, Dr. Chris Boleman. He'll be stepping in here in just a moment. I'm going to give everybody about a minute to get engaged and involved here and join us live. Want to thank you for tuning in early and being on board here at 11 o'clock with us, and asking that if you are joining us, to leave some comments in the section for us, letting us know where you're watching from, where you're viewing this chat from, and maybe talk to us about your favorite rodeo or Houston Livestock Show moment. We'd love to hear from you throughout the day and throughout this conversation. Looking forward to talking to Dr. Bowman and finding out how his first week and a half has gone as the new president of Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. We're going to get started here in just a minute. Give everybody another half minute to get on board. Also want to invite you, if you're watching on Facebook, to start a watch party. When you engage with us by starting a watch party, it increases the number of total viewers to the conversation. And that's what we're hoping for, hoping to spread more good news about our mission here at Rodeo Houston. So thanks again for tuning in. Dr. Bowman will be with us in just a moment. And while I'm preparing you for that conversation, I want to update you on a couple of things going on in our organization. We've got the Carnival ticket sales update I'll give you here in just a minute. For those of you who applied for a refund for your Carnival tickets for the 2020 show, I'll go ahead and update you now and let you know that those checks have been mailed. We had almost 18,000 checks that we had to mail out on those Carnival ticket refunds. Had a couple of missteps along the way with a couple hundred of the checks, and we're working on correcting that. So if you have not received your check as of yet, you will get it very shortly. So appreciate your patience on that. It's been a tough 2020 for a lot of folks, and we understand. We hope you will be patient with us as well. With that said, I want to welcome in Dr. Chris Bowman, who's going to join us here on our second official Rodeo Houston live chat. And for us, the continuation of what used to be AgChat, where he was actually the host of that, of our conversation on a weekly basis with several folks from around the industry and around our mission as well. So Dr. Chris Bowman has been on the job now for a week and a half as the president of Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Before that was Chief Mission Officer, has been in the organization for about 3 years. I'll let him talk more about that. But first and foremost, welcome, Dr. Bowman.
What is happening? It's good to be here. It's good to see you, David. And certainly it's great to be here. It's a little different being on this end. I'm usually in your driver's seat. So, you know, you're in more control here. So I have to keep that in mind as we go through here. But good to see you. Good to see everybody. Good to be online today.
Hey, Chris, talk to us about the first 8 days officially in the seat that you're in, occupying the role of president and CEO of Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. How's the first 8 days been?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been really good so far. And I would start by just saying that the support has just been overwhelming. I've heard from so many volunteers and staff and just so many community leaders. Just want to thank everybody for reaching out. I think I tried to respond to every message as best I could, but man, I'll tell you what's been so enlightening to me. And of course I have been here a few years and I have a long history with the show, but just seeing how much people really appreciate what we do here at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, how much they think of our organization and what we do regarding our mission and how we give back to the community and to agriculture and you know, those kinds of things. And so it's just been so great to hear from everybody. And then, so that's kind of the first part. The second part is I'm learning a lot. I mean, I just moved across the hall, but there's just so many things to learn and so many people giving thoughts and great perspectives. And just somebody said, "Are you drinking out of a fire hose?" I said, "No, it's just out of the fire hydrant right now." I think so, but it's going great. I'm loving every minute of it.
Well, we've already got some folks wanting to say howdy and wishing you positive feedback on the comments section so far. Don't forget, you can drop some comments on, say howdy to Chris, and let us know where you're watching from. We've got Stacy, who's on the wine committee, that says howdy. We've got Nicole saying howdy from Quinlan FFA. I'm sure close to your heart in that in that neck of the woods, and certainly with the FFA role. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about FFA, 4-H, and start with your background in our industry and talk about your passion, how you got involved. I mean, let's start as a boy. I've seen a great photo of you as a young man showing here at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Walk us through your childhood.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to. So yeah, I grew up showing livestock, primarily cattle and swine, both. Our goal every year, this was the big show for us, was to come here in March and work hard all year to get here. And so we would start our projects in the summer, particularly on the cattle side, and we'd get our pigs in the fall. And yeah, every single project we ever purchased, there was an intent to bring it here. And so we would feed them, take care of them, and the best ones were the ones we saved and brought here. So yeah, I grew up showed here from 3rd grade to 12th grade. Grew up as a 4-H'er there in Brazos County, Bryan College Station, Gig 'em Aggies, right? I've got a couple of degrees from there. That's home for me. And so my parents live there, still the exact same place with a barn in the back where we grew up raising our projects. I have 2 brothers. And so the 3 of us, we did that. We're very competitive. We enjoyed it. I attribute a lot of where I am in life to that 4-H experience and the life skills gained by raising livestock projects and showing. And I know a lot of folks online that know me, know that background. So from there, I went to A&M in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and then started my career as a county extension agent in Bell County, Belton, Temple, Killeen. Had some great times there. Still talk to a lot of folks from that neck of the woods, and then eventually came back to A&M to work on some degrees and do some work as a lecturer. And ended up in the Ag Ed department at Texas A&M. Worked for AgriLife Extension with a lot of great county agents and extension specialists. The AgriLife Extension program is awesome. And of course, that's where the 4-H program is a part of. That's the youth component of the agency. And so for 10 years, I had the great privilege of leading that organization from 2008 and 2017. So roughly 600,000 kids involved in different things in 4-H, and 25,000 volunteers in that organization as well. So I have a real passion for organizations with volunteers and staff and volunteer interaction, and how you can increase your mission by working with volunteers. And of course, that's what we do here. So that's a little bit about it. Came here 3 years ago. Even before then, I worked here as a superintendent of some of the judging contests. One of the stories I like to tell here at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo is there's a hallway in the Ag Exhibits department where there's photos of some of the real legendary superintendents, people that made a mark in terms of working with our junior livestock show and working with the staff and volunteers. And so my dad is on one side, as he was the steer superintendent, and then also the livestock judging superintendent for that contest. And then my granddad is on the other side because he was a professor at A&M and oversaw the Barra show here for many years, and also the judging contest. So long history here. All that being said, I guess that's enough about me.
It's not enough. It's not enough. You got a lot of folks who are congratulating you through our comments section.
Awesome.
A lot of gigums, even a fellow with a handle of Flame Rodeo Clown wanted to say congratulations.
Love it.
To you as well. Also Tejas Wapo. So keep sending those comments in. And
awesome.
If you have questions for Dr. Bowman, drop them here as well. We're talking with Dr. Chris Bowman here on Rodeo Houston Live. His new role as president, CEO of the organization started a week ago Monday. I'd be remiss, Chris, if I don't ask you about the biggest story, not only with the rodeo, but in the world. The closing of the rodeo this past March. And, we spent a lot of time in that, a lot of time during the whole rodeo talking about this topic, but it really hit hard that night in the morning of closing the rodeo. Tell me your feelings that morning. How hard was it for you? And what was the toughest piece of that moment for you personally?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, it was heartbreaking, and that's the best word I could use to describe it. And I remember getting a text from my older brother who said, you can only control what you can control. And that's probably what I needed. And certainly that quote has stayed with me since that day, even in the days we're in right now. I mean, it was tough, and there's no other way around it. And I remember picking up the phone and calling my wife, who, as many of you know, is a volunteer here, and telling her kind of what was happening. And I was very emotional, I guess is the best way that I would put it. I was quite emotional, and still am, to be honest, because my heart and kind of how I was raised is around youth livestock projects. And so we were just really kicking off that part of the show. And as the chief mission officer, in that particular role, that was very hard. It was very, very hard to shut down. But then, as you reflect back and you see all the things that happen, and like anything else, I mean, there's always things that you could have handled differently. But knowing what we knew at the time, and knowing the situation we were in, we had to do what's best. And our number one priority is the safe and well-being of our guests, of our exhibitors, of our vendors, of everybody, and our staff and our volunteer base, all the above. And so you had to shift immediately to what's important. And so the goal then was to follow the rules and guidelines, and disperse our audiences, and make an exit strategy, knowing that we're in unprecedented times, and knowing that while it's not what any of us wanted to do, and we work all year to get to this point, it was the right thing to do at the time. As we look at our community, we look at our state, and we look at the well-being of our guests.
So, Chris, there were a lot of people who were disappointed, obviously, and we heard from those people, and almost everybody to a person understood the decision that had to be made. A lot of people had had rodeo and concert tickets for the next 12 nights that were very disappointed they weren't going to be able to see a big star that they had planned on, like Lizzo. There were a lot of people who their family outing every year is coming to the Carnival. And then, of course, those kids who spend so many hours and days and nights staying up all night with their animals and getting ready for the show. I'm guessing for you, that was probably the hardest part, but how tough was it for you walking around and knowing the heartbreak that those kids were experiencing that day and the rest of the week?
Yeah, it was really tough. And even, when I was able to go down to the barn that evening and see the exhibitors, we were able to finish the lamb and goat show. The other exhibitors that were here, the heifer exhibitors that we had to ask to leave, that was by far the toughest part. Because just as you mentioned, I know the effort, I know the work, I know what the county agents and the ag teachers and those leaders do with our young people as well, and those families that are so vested in that. And so yeah, I mean, there's not enough words to describe. And I thought of myself, if I was a graduating senior, like so many folks were, how to respond to that. And definitely, I hope as we reflect now, we can learn about this is unprecedented. It hasn't happened. A COVID virus type of thing hasn't happened in 100 years as we look at that flu pandemic. And so it's something we can learn from. I've told a lot of people, young people especially, that have talked to me about this, keep a journal, because these are things that we need to remember in our history. And so, but no, there's no question that was the toughest part for me.
Let's move forward, because forward momentum is important, and we'll get to. I'll ask you a little bit later about your thoughts on the 2021 show, because I know that's on everybody's mind. But I want to talk to you now. I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about this organization itself. And you've been involved from every aspect. You've been involved as both someone who showed here as a kid. You've been involved in particular with your wife as a volunteer, so you have that connection, and a staff member. So really a well-rounded background with this organization. When you look at the future, when you look at your ideas and your goals and what you want to do in this leadership role, will you tell us a little bit about some of those?
Sure. Yeah, I don't mind at all. And as you mentioned, we're very close to it. It's a family event for Randy and I, for sure. And we love the people so much here, and what it means and the impact it has, obviously, on all that we serve. And so I've been asked this question a lot. And my first response is always the same. This is the best livestock show and rodeo in the world. I believe that, and obviously we have the numbers and all that, but I'm more concerned about the experience, right? And so and obviously the 20 days, we have a lot of things that happen, but I want to make sure that our experience is top notch. And the first point is, hey man, don't if it's not broke, we don't need to fix it. There's so many things here that are going on that are so well. This is a well-oiled machine, and to me, one of the best parts of it is the how the volunteers not only commit, but they also the leadership roles that they're in. They do it on a 3-year rotation for the most part. So there's always good ideas and creative ideas that are coming in, which to me means the ultimate of that is nothing gets stale, right? And so, and I love that. And that's kind of my leadership philosophy, as you know, as we've gotten to work together. I love change. I love how change and management and dynamics work. And for here, to me, that's one of the best parts of working here, is because of our volunteer base and the ideas and the leadership that's happening, and then collaborating that with staff. There's always new things to try and experiment with, and trying to grow our audience. So, and that being said, that's the first part. The second part is, we are living in Houston, Texas, which by most accounts, or certainly by some accounts, there's a lot of research that indicates, hey, this is now the most diverse city in the country. And so, and because of that, and then you connect that to a mission of promoting agriculture as one piece of that, David, that we have a real opportunity to teach folks about agriculture. And of course, with my background, I'm so passionate about that. And so how we can create a platform here that is of interest for people to come to, from an entertainment piece, from an educational piece, and knowing that we're giving back in scholarships, and how we tell that story. And be diverse in our messaging around the grounds and around the park. One of the most interesting things for me when I came here, and what I've learned over time, is that let's say we have 2.4 million folks that come to the grounds. About half of those enter the stadium. So what does that mean? That means the other half are out here on the grounds. And so what are we doing? How are we setting things up all across, from the carnival to the educational pieces that are happening? I'm pointing outside my window to what's happening in the NRG Center, and just all of that together. I mean, a lot of us think about the rodeo, and certainly that is a great piece. But my point is, there's a whole experience out here that I hope people get a chance to participate and learn about. And some of them, they're educational. Some of them are more entertaining. And so it's that mix, along with the food and everything else. It's all about a spirit here. The Houston spirit, the community spirit that's happening. And so I'm getting long-winded on these answers, but I guess I would start with just keeping to improve what we're doing. And then the second part is really embrace who we are, and try to grow our agricultural education piece, because so many people these days don't have a farming and ranching background. And we want to make sure they have an appreciation for their food and fiber. That's real important to me.
Well, your enthusiasm, good long answers, but enthusiasm and passion are obvious. Tons of congratulations coming in. I'm not going to be able to get to all of them, but we've got folks from the Hill Country Go Texans saying howdy and congratulations. Tons of FFA and 4-H, your friends and colleagues from there are chiming in with congratulations as well. We're talking with Dr. Chris Boleman, the new president and CEO of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. And one of our questions that came in was from Roger, who says, what are your top 3 goals?
Yeah, so top 3 goals is, so I always say, the other way I would say that is, what's my sense of urgency? The sense of urgency is to try and learn as much as I can. As Chief Mission Officer, there are roughly 40 committees that were under that division. And so I'm definitely more familiar with those pieces. And so where I'm trying to branch out for sure is to learn about all the different things that are happening. So that's probably more of a personal goal, of just really embracing the learning that happens, which I'm a lifelong learner. I mean, I'm committed to that. It's a part of my leadership philosophy. So just trying to learn, but also try to take it in stride so I don't overwhelm myself. But I'll tell you, the number 1 goal, without question, is a safe 2021 show. And so as I come into this position, knowing that we had 8 days, and knowing that we do have the COVID-19 out there, and knowing that as we are planning here, and we're planning wholeheartedly full blast for a 2021 show. But the ultimate goal right now, the first goal, is to certainly make sure that we're able to do that in a safe way for our patrons and our guests and our vendors, exhibitors, et cetera. In addition to that, I think it's a little bit about continuing where we've been, and then where we can go. And so to me, there's a lot of opportunities out there to engage young people, and for that matter, to engage the Houston community to come here as we continue to diversify our portfolio. And the example I give, just because I was in the mission division, is, there's an agrobotics contest here. Now we try to create even competitive events for young people where maybe you can't, you're in a place where you can't raise an animal. And so do we have other options? Well, the same can be said just for what we're providing overall, is trying to reach audiences that may not have historical interest in coming to the rodeo, by promoting that mission, promoting the educational piece, that piece of Western heritage. I mean, this is a season when it happens. And so to me, just embracing that as a community, and for that matter, as a state, as we continue to look towards the future.
Well, we've got lots of folks continuing to chime in. Give us those comments and questions. Lori from the Livestock Committee says howdy. We've got Juan tuning in from out in the Cypress area. And again, lots of people from your alma mater that are chiming in with the thumbs up and the howdy for Dr. Chris Bowman. I want to address one question that came up. I saw the question come up about season tickets. When will we start putting renewals, and asking about prices? I can tell you, because that falls under my umbrella, that we haven't made a decision on season tickets and prices or anything for next year. But if you have season tickets and you renew them, I would anticipate there not being an increase for you. So I think that'll be good news for folks. And then in terms of renewals, if you have season tickets, you should have received an email this week giving you the timeline for renewals. We're going to try to stay as close as we can to the timeline for season ticket renewals as we have in the past. So you should have received an email on Monday, I believe it was, and the process will start on June 16th. So if you haven't heard anything, you might want to reach out to our email address. And then if you have heard, then you'll be expecting the official word to come on the 16th of June. So we talked a little bit about some of your goals and some of your background. I want to talk a little bit about your leadership style and ask you, when you look at your role as leader, what are some of the things that you feel are important for a successful culture of an organization like ours? And then add to that, if there are any leaders that inspire you, or people that you look to, whether it's through their writings or podcasts, or how do you stay sharp? How do you sharpen the saw, so to speak, for your leadership abilities?
Yeah, sure. Well, so I'll start with kind of what that philosophy is. The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo is in the people business. I mean, that's what we do. And the people can be defined, obviously, a number of different ways. And I mentioned those a lot. You know, our staff, the 35,000 volunteers that are just so passionate about what we do here and work with our staff. And then just all the folks that come onto the grounds as guests, our vendors. And so it really is it's a people business. And I think from a leadership philosophy, that has to be priority number one, is building relationships. I'm a relationship guy. I always say there's a relationship between relationship and task, a relationship and what needs to get done. And so as a part of that is you have to be able to drive the decisions that need to be made from a task point of view and getting the work done, but you also have to be able to do that in a way where you've got good and great relationships, so people trust you and communication is open. And so that's probably the best way to describe it. Is I feel like I'm very much a relationship kind of in terms of just a base leadership philosophy. I really believe in adaptive leadership. If you're familiar with that, it's really a change management model that we're always willing to look for new things, and knowing that we stick to the core of our mission, but at the same time, we're open to experiment and share new ideas, no matter how crazy they may sound, but at least we're open to that experimentation and conversation. And so I definitely think that piece, combining that with the relationship, is kind of how I work. One of the sayings I use a lot around here is this is the work. Like, whatever it is you're doing, it is the work. It's not, we don't just put on a livestock show. We don't just manage committees. It's all the above, right? All of that creates the experience here for our staff and volunteers. And so it's a full-time gig of building relationships, learning from each other. And again, as I mentioned earlier, and why I love this place so much is this constant change in people and turnover regarding how our volunteer ladder or our volunteer structure really works here. So it forces you to stay on top of things. It forces you to learn. I'm sitting in meetings sometimes and I hear about technology that we could be adopting here on the grounds that frankly I don't know anything about. But I know there's an audience that does, and it helps to tell our story. So I have to go home and learn about it. And I think, and so that's where I would end is thirdly is just being committed to learning. And so I think a lot of us at times we get very comfortable in what we know, and so that's where we stay. And I think as a part of our leadership philosophy, we have to be willing to continue to grow outside that space. And so, and it doesn't mean you have to agree with everything, but it means you have an appreciation or willing to learn and look at things in various angles. And so in saying that, man, I read all the time. Gosh, I'll pick up and read kind of anything. I tend to focus more on some of the adaptive leadership kind of stuff that's out there. A lot of, I mean, obviously the ones that come to mind, you know, I mean, Good to Great, which I know you've read, we talked about that, and Leadership on the Line by Linsky and some of those guys on adaptive leadership. That's, I call that more of my playbook. But I like reading all kinds of things. I mean, just any kind of management, quick reads. I just read a book called, I may not get the name right, but all artists steal, or all artists are thieves. In other words, all artists, their creative mindset typically comes from something that they grow into their own idea. And so it's a short read. It's really interesting about, I mean, even the most creative people still have ideas that they picked up from somebody. And that's the same thing here. And I really believe that, like, okay, here's a picture of something. Now, how does that relate to us? And how can we grow from there? How do we learn from that? I spend a lot of time looking at how other organizations function and how some of those decisions kind of work in here. So what can you learn from them? Some things don't work, some things work, and just kind of adapt from there.
Yeah, I think the best ideas, you could say stolen, borrowed, copied, but there's nothing wrong with taking a good idea and going from good to great with it. We got a ton of people still commenting. Hey, in honor of Chris's background in livestock, let's put a heart in the comments and an emoji of your favorite livestock animal if you can. But let's get a heart for all you livestock folk, FFA, 4-H, anybody's got that background. Speaking of livestock, several committees, and I can't keep up with them all. They're chiming in with congratulations. Robin from the Calf Scramble, representing the Calf Scramble, Randall from Ticket Services, Charles from Rodeo Express, Andre from Breeders Greeters, just all chiming in. And then I thought this was a great question. I'm going to ask a question from Mary. She asked to ask Dr. Bowman, what do you need from the volunteers?
Yeah, good question. I think just an overall attitude of optimism, right? And so, and that's inherent in who we are anyway. But I know there's so many questions right now, and frankly, there's a lot of it we just don't know. But I think our ability to be optimistic and forward thinking as we kind of go through, I mean, honestly, just some rough times in 2020, but stay focused on the mission and what we're about and what we do, because every committee and every volunteer contributes to that. And I want you to find your value within that mission, no matter how big or how small. Some of us get excited about agriculture, and then of course our educational commitment, which is awesome. And you know, this year we surpassed $500 million. I mean, think about that for a minute for the youth of Texas. And so with all the things that are happening, let's celebrate that. How awesome is that? And just and then the third thing is, I think we're going to have to be maybe just a bit more flexible, is the terminology I've been using around here, because and knowing that it may look a little different, or at least we have to prepare for different things, because we're not 100% confident. What we do know is 2021 is going to look different than 2020, and we know it looks different in 2019, but we don't know exactly how that's all going to play out. And so in saying that, we're full force planning for 2021, and we definitely want everybody optimistic and moving forward in that direction, and staying committed to our mission and finding your value within it. So
Monty says he can't wait to introduce you and Randy at Top Hands. So excited about that. And then Ashley just typed in, as you were talking about optimism, Ashley Smith says 100% optimism makes everything so much easier to handle. And I think in the short time I've known you, that certainly feeds into your philosophy as well. Thanks everybody for continuing to pop in with those hearts and those livestock emojis. Keep putting those in the comments. Chris, you touched on 2021. So let's dig into that for just a minute. I'm not going to ask you to go into a lot of detail, because I know there's not a lot of detail to go into. How optimistic should we, volunteers, the community, be about the 2021 show?
As you know, because we've talked a lot about this, I mean, our biggest advantage right now is time, right? And so we're really able to digest what's going on around us. And one of the messages I've had as we've kind of gone through here is that just look at where we were mid-March and look at where we are now as it's June. So, we're a month and a half or 2.5 months past that now. And look how much has changed and look how much we've learned. So I'm very optimistic because I think the next 2.5 months, we're going to see lots of changes and lots of technology improvements and whatever the case may be to help us get past this. And then, of course, that gives us the whole fall. Look, you're not going to get me down. And so I have no doubts today that we have an opportunity to plan for a tremendous show in 2021. Are we also looking at different options in case? Yes, we are. But I feel, David, I don't know of anybody except maybe you, based on the conversations we've had, that's more optimistic. And I just think we have to have that mindset. And one of the best advice I received is from a friend when I reached out to him and said, where should our head be right now? A leadership expert. And he said, it's a fool's errand to try to predict the future. What you really need to be focusing on right now is direction and experimentation and asking questions about what have we learned from this that could make us better? What have we learned that we know we're going to have to improve and make better? And to me, that's really where my head is right now.
So optimistic for 2021. A lot of that optimism we're seeing in the comments as well. By the way, you mentioned the book a moment ago, and we've had a few people commenting, including our good friend Mark O'Shea, who says the book is Steal Like an Artist.
Steal Like an Artist. Yeah, I couldn't think of the name. I'm terrible about remembering book names. Yeah, it's a great book. And it's a short read.
And speaking of Mark, we've got a couple of Australians watching, Cherie and, of course, Jay.
Awesome.
Who's also tuning in as well. So always have good representation from down under on Rodeo Houston Live. We're talking with Dr. Chris Bowman. We just touched on the 2021 show and everything that's going on right now in the world. A lot of uncertainty, but a lot of optimism as well. And from your perspective, as we look at what's going on in the world, and I don't want to get in right now to all, the nitty gritty of the challenges we're facing in our society, but as you look long term and you look at our mission of education and promoting agriculture and Western heritage, when you think about that mission and the challenging times we see now, how do you see that fitting in to the future?
Well, I think it fits right in line. And I believe our organization is one that helps to bring people together for a common mission, right? And it's our mission. The community is so supportive of this. Of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. The state is, we are nationally and internationally known. And I believe that people are looking for good things. At my very core, I believe the best in every person. And so I really do believe that as we look at our mission and what we do for young people, from exhibitors to scholarships, our commitment of agriculture, our commitment to community, Western heritage, I think it all aligns perfectly with how I think we can be better as a country. And I think as we continue down this path, we will be a place for hope because of the good things that we're doing. And that's just the way I'm going to view it.
So again, a lot of people chiming in and saying howdy. Melanie, who's with a communications special service, rodeo contestants, hospitality, and cap scramble. She's a busy woman. Wanted to say congratulations. I can't wait for 2021. Also, Lee Roundtree, a 38-year volunteer with the organization, chiming in and providing as well.
Good.
So, Chris,
as we hear from both those, they're both great people.
Also, Corral Club East Stadium saying congratulations as well. So a lot of folks are really excited.
And so one of my other goals, I forgot to mention, speaking of, is I get lost in the stadium when I go over there. And so I'm gonna depend on volunteers to help me, because sometimes I get down a hallway and I can't turn around. I don't know where I'm going. And so some of the staff know that, mostly in sponsorships. And so, but yes, they give me a hard time. But yes, that's another goal, is to figure out all the hiding places there in the stadium and how to go from one floor to the next and all that good stuff.
Well, this has been a great conversation for me, Chris, and I hope the folks tuning in have enjoyed it on this edition of Rodeo Houston Live. Let's end it with this. Tell me your hopes and dreams as the leader of Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, now 8 days into your role as the president and CEO, but what are your hopes and dreams for the future for this organization?
Yeah, I think is to keep getting better each and every day. Have a committed group of staff and volunteers that support the mission and work tirelessly to provide the atmosphere and the environment that we have. We are so blessed here because it's just so I can't describe the energy and enthusiasm that's at this place because of all the people that are involved. And one of the things, just a side note that I've said a lot, is people have asked, what's the one thing you're looking forward to in the 2021 show? Well, I'm going to tell you. What I'm most looking forward to is an evening up here where folks are coming up the escalator and there's meetings happening all up and down the hall, and really living off that energy and enthusiasm, because that means there's some normalcy, right, David? That's obviously before the show starts, but as we go into the fall and we start to see the buildup. With our staff and our volunteers, we're seeing, I mean, it's electric around here. So that's my hope, is that we just continue down that path and we continue to move forward with the energy and enthusiasm that we have for putting on just a world-class event.
Wow, that's a lot of great stuff. I really do appreciate you sharing your vision and goals with us. And maybe, yeah, go ahead.
One more item, because I mentioned Randy, and I wanted to say that the other piece to this whole organization is it is a family, and luckily I'm supported by Randy, who many of you know. We're a team. We do everything together, and so I'm able to live life every day with a person that is so dedicated as a volunteer to the mission. And so what I've learned so much from her, from that piece, but I just wanted to recognize her and what a great partner in life I have. So I wanted to make sure I made that point.
So when we met and had a conversation with the Houston Zoo 2 weeks ago, they had this beautiful bird they brought as part of the presentation and part of the conversation. Can I hope that next time we chat, you can bring Randy and the ferrets in on the conversation as well?
Yeah, she's been she did help me. You know, we did the food one where she cooked, and so because she's a dietitian, so that worked out great. Yeah, she'll have to make another appearance for sure.
So speaking of future appearances, this was a great broad topic, looking at your vision, your goals of the future. I'd like to spend an hour next time we talk digging in real deeply on the screwworm eradication that happened in Texas through the folks at Texas A&M and others in the early 1960s, if you don't mind.
Yes, I know you have a couple of topics that are extremely important to you. I don't know what the listening audience are, how interested they would be. Maybe we try that just you and I, and we'll see if it's worth sharing.
Yeah, I'll bring my dad in. He'll be the only audience. He'll be an audience of one for that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Well, listen, Dr. Bowman, I really appreciate the time, your energy, your passion, and sharing it with all the folks tuning in here on Rodeo Houston Live today.
Cool, man. Thanks, David. And I'm glad to know that you're taking over a little bit. I hope to still sit in that seat every now and then, but I know we've had some fun conversations about you moving into there. This AgChat, what we do Wednesday at 11, I think are really cool and fun for everybody out there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad you've spearheaded that, and thanks to our team, as always, for making it happen. Dr. Chris Boleman, new president and chief executive officer of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate everyone's listening, everyone's comments. Can't wait to go back and try to read them all. A lot of optimism, a lot of positivity coming out from our constituents. We greatly appreciate it. I'm David Brady, thanking you for tuning in, saying stay healthy and stay safe.
Thanks, David.